Welcome to Under the Hood, a blend of business and sociopsychology. Business looks rational from the outside. It isn't. Under the Hood explores the hidden psychological and systemic forces that truly drive execution and performance. Incentives, blind spots, power dynamics, habits, fear. Why do smart organizations repeat the same mistakes? What really separates motion from progress? This is not armchair philosophy. We move from insight to behavioral engineering, practical tools and decision frameworks you can apply immediately. Understanding is useful. Execution is mandatory. If it doesn't change behavior, it's entertainment.
That last line is really the kicker, isn't it? I mean, if it doesn't change behavior, it's just noise. And today, we're looking at what is probably the loudest noise in the entire corporate world. We're taking on a paradox that destroys more value than arguably any other management mistake out there.
That's a massive claim to start the deep dive with. Destroys more value than any other mistake. You're talking about goal setting, right?
Yeah. I am, yeah. Specifically, the architecture of how we actually define success. We have a pretty massive stack of research to get through today. We've got Locke and Latham on organizational psychology, some really gritty neuroscience on attentional control, and tons of workshop data on strategic alignment. And they all basically point to this one weird contradiction. Companies fail because they want too many things, but they become corrupt because they measure too few things.
Okay, hold on. That sounds like a riddle. You're saying we fail because we have too many goals, which I get, you and I both feel that every Monday morning. But we become corrupt if we have just one. So I'm damned if I do, and I'm unethical if I don't.
It sounds totally impossible, doesn't it? But it's actually a design flaw. Most organizations are accidentally designed to distract their absolute highest performers. We're going to look at why strategic dispersion, which is really just a fancy academic way of saying doing too much, is actually a biological problem, not just a management one. And then we'll look at why simplification, having just one number to hit, is a one-way ticket to corporate hell.
I love a good corporate hellscape story. But let's start with the first part, strategic dispersion. Because I know you listeners feel this. Every quarter, your inbox fills up with strategic priorities. And usually there are about, 10 of them. And they're all labeled critical.
Right. Critical. P0. Must win. The vocabulary of urgency is just endless.
But is that actually fatal? Or is it just annoying? Because we're taught that high performers can juggle. We're taught that the best people are the ones who can handle the chaos. If I can't handle 10 priorities, maybe I'm just not working hard enough.
That is the single most dangerous myth in the workplace. The myth of the professional multitasker. It's the idea that you can just add one more thing to the plate without dropping everything else.
I feel attacked. I pride myself on my multitasking. I'm doing it right now.
We all do. It's a badge of honor. But let's actually look at the research from Edwin Locke and Gary Latham. They are basically the godfathers of goal-setting theory. Their research is incredibly robust. It spans decades. And their headline finding is actually quite positive. Clear, difficult goals increase performance. If I tell you to do your best, you'll do okay. If I tell you to climb that specific mountain in 4 hours, you'll perform significantly better.
Right. Limits and targets drive focus. That's Management 101.
But here is the nuance that gets totally lost. Their research, combined with modern neuroscience, shows that once you cross a certain threshold of goals, you trigger attentional dispersion. You see, we treat attention like it's a spotlight that we can just flick around the room instantly. Look at the budget, now look at hiring, now look at the product.
But it's not a spotlight.
It's more like a heavy rusted stage light. It takes energy to move it. And once you move it, it takes time to focus the lens. The research discusses the concept of the cognitive switching penalty.
Is that the same as transition cost?
It is. Think about the biology of your brain for a second. When you are deeply engaged in a complex task, let's say writing a strategic memo or coding a complex feature, your brain has loaded a massive amount of context into your working memory. Variables, history, tone, logic. It's like loading a massive spreadsheet into RAM on a computer.
Okay, I'm with you. My RAM is full. I'm in the zone.
Then a Slack message pops up. Hey, did you approve that expense report? You switch. You have to dump the spreadsheet to load the expense report context. You answer it. That took maybe 30 seconds. But then you go back to the memo.
And I have to reload the spreadsheet.
And that reload isn't free. The research suggests that for dip tasks, it can take 15 to 20 minutes to regain the same level of cognitive depth you had before the interruption. You call it multitasking, but biologically, it's just rapid-fire context dumping.
So if I have 10 projects and I'm touching all of them every single day,
You are never actually working. You are just reloading context. You are burning glucose on the switch, not the execution. The brain runs on glucose. Every time you switch context, you burn a disproportionate amount of fuel just to reorient yourself.
This completely explains why you can spend 8 hours at your desk, answer 100 emails, touch 12 projects, and feel completely exhausted by 5 p.m., yet feel like you accomplished absolutely nothing.
That is the physiological definition of motion, not progress. And when a leadership team hands down 10 priorities, they aren't just giving you a to-do list, they are structurally guaranteeing that you will spend your day in that switching cost loop.
So the scarcest resource isn't the budget.
No.
It's not the headcount.
It is the aggregate cognitive capacity of the team. It is attention. And unlike budget, you can't borrow more of it. You can't take out a loan on attention span.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate here. If my boss gives me 10 priorities, surely they know I can't do them all at once. The implied message is figure out the order, right?
You would hope so. But what is the actual message received by the human brain when a leader says, these 10 things are all top priority?
Panic.
Exactly. The message is nothing is actually a priority. If everything is important, nothing is important. And this leads to a very specific behavioral consequence that we see in the data. When a team is overloaded with goals, they don't stop working. They don't freeze. They unconsciously select which tasks to do.
And how do they pick? Do they pick the most strategically valuable one?
Rarely. They pick based on a path of least resistance. They prioritize tasks that are 1, highly visible, 2, gratifying or fun, 3, fast to complete, and 4, safe.
The low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. They'll clear out the inbox because it feels good to see the number go down. They'll finish the flashy marketing deck because it looks pretty. They'll handle the immediate client fire because it's loud.
But the big, hairy, scary strategic project, the one that requires deep thought and has a high chance of failure,
that one stays blocked. It sits at the bottom of the list. And the team reports, hey, we finished 9 out of 10 items. But the one item they missed was the only one that actually mattered for the company's future.
because the architecture of incentives rewarded them for being busy, not for being effective.
Precisely. They are optimizing for their own cognitive comfort, not for the company's strategy. And you can't blame them. The system was designed to fry their brains, so they retreated to the safe work.
Okay, so that's the problem. We are dispersing our energy. We are burning glucose on switches.
Right.
What is the antidote? Because do less is great advice that nobody ever actually follows.
Let's look at a case study that illustrates the less is more approach perfectly. Airbnb.
I know Brian Chesky has been pretty vocal about how he runs the company. What's his exact take on this?
Airbnb has faced several near-death experiences, and Chesky realized that for critical projects, the ones that literally determine survival, the rule had to be radical. It couldn't be fit this in.
So what was the rule?
The rule is one person equals one major project.
Wait, one? Just one? Like, I don't have a day job anymore. I just do this one thing.
Correct. Not one project plus your day job, plus these 3 committees, plus the holiday party planning. Just one. If a project is truly vital, the person responsible for it has that as their sole focus.
That sounds incredible, honestly. But practically, how can you afford to take your best people off everything else?
How can you afford not to? Chesky's argument is that critical projects require continuous obsession.
Continuous obsession. I like that. It sounds intense.
It is. It implies you're thinking about it in the shower, on the commute, while you're making coffee. You aren't partitioning your brain. If you're constantly arbitrating between conflicting priorities, like, should I answer this email or work on the strategy, you destroy speed. And in a crisis or a major growth phase, speed is everything.
This really connects back to the theory of constraints, doesn't it?
It does perfectly, Eliyahu Goldratt. The theory states that every system has a bottleneck, a main constraint. As long as that bottleneck isn't treated, optimizing everything else is just an illusion of productivity.
So if my bottleneck is that we don't have a working product, and I spend my time optimizing the color of the logo, I'm completely wasting my time.
You are hallucinating progress. You are improving the non-bottlenecks. So the high-performance formula for projects is this. If a project is vital, one project equals one responsible person equals 100% focus.
And the failure mode is 5 priorities equals 0 real priorities.
Correct. This is the concept of strategic monotasking. Even if the daily execution of a company is messy and chaotic, the strategy must be focused. You tackle one major constraint at a time. You swarm it, you solve it, then you move to the next one.
Okay, I'm sold. This makes total sense. We need to simplify. We need to focus.
Sure.
One project, one person, laser focus. It feels clean. It feels right. I'm ready to focus on my wall and fire half of my to-do list.
It does feel right, and this is where I need you to stop nodding because we are about to make a very sharp turn.
Uh-oh. I know that tone. What's the catch?
So for projects, we want a laser focus. But if you apply that same single focus as logic to your metrics, you will destroy your company. Here's why the approach for KPIs must be the exact opposite.
Wait, hold on. You just spent 20 minutes telling me focus is good. Continuous obsession. Now you're saying for metrics, focus is bad.
That is exactly what I'm saying.
That feels incredibly inconsistent. If focus is good for the work, why is focus bad for the measurement?
Because a project is an action. It has an end date. You want that action to be piercing. But a KPI is a representation of reality, and reality is never one-dimensional.
Representation of reality. Okay, that's fairly philosophical. Let's make it concrete for the listener. Why is it bad to have one goal for a metric?
Because of what we call the genie in the bottle effect.
You wish for something and you get exactly what you wished for, but in the absolute worst way possible.
Precisely. Let's talk about the danger of the single KPI. Let's say you are a sales director. I am the CEO. I want to use the focus logic. So I tell you, forget everything else. I don't care about the details. Your only goal is to increase revenue by 20% this quarter.
Okay, I mean, as a salesperson, I love that clarity. I know exactly what I need to do to get my bonus.
Yeah.
I just need to see that line go up.
Do you? Because I didn't say profit. I didn't say customer happiness. I just said revenue. So it's 2 weeks before the end of the quarter. You are at 15% growth. You need that last 5% to hit the target. What do?
Well, if I'm desperate, and I usually am in sales, I call up my biggest clients and I offer them a discount, a really big one.
Right. You slash prices. You pull forward next quarter's deals by giving away 30% margins. Revenue goes up. What else?
I might lower the barrier to entry, sign up anyone with a pulse.
Exactly. You sign customers who has a terrible fit. They will demand features we don't have. They will harass the support team. They will churn in 3 months and badmouth us on social media. But for this quarter,
The number went up.
the number went up. You hit the target. You get the champagne. And you have simultaneously poisoned the company's future.
Because I optimized for the map, not the territory.
That's a brilliant way to put it. A single KPI creates a tunnel. You run down that tunnel as fast as you can because we incentivized you to run fast. But you can't see the cliff edge until you fall off it. This is a core concept in behavioral engineering. If you give a team a single goal, they can and will manipulate it.
Do we have real-world examples of this going wrong? Or is this just theoretical?
Oh, it is painfully real. Look at WeWork.
Oh boy, the classic example.
Their obsession was growth, occupancy, expansion. They optimized for that single metric at the expense of profitability, governance, and reality. They were leasing buildings at a massive loss just to show they had growth.
And we all know how that ended.
Or look at Uber in its early growth at all costs, period. They expanded rapidly, which was the metric, but they were bleeding money on every ride and fighting regulatory wars they didn't really need to fight because the metric was grow, not grow sustainably.
It seems like venture capital scale-ups are particularly prone to this trap.
They are. They often suffer from opportunistic behaviors driven by these isolated growth metrics. They optimize for the next funding round, not for building a viable, long-lasting business.
So simplicity in metrics is actually blindness.
Radical simplicity in metrics is negligence. This is why we need what the research calls intelligent tension.
Intelligent tension. I like the sound of that. Sounds sophisticated.
It's the idea that a good piloting system actually forces you to balance contradictory forces.
Contradictory. So you want me to have goals that fight each other? That sounds chaotic.
Not chaotic, stable. Think about it like the cables on a suspension bridge. They pull in opposite directions to keep the bridge stable. If all the cables pull in the exact same direction, the bridge would completely collapse.
Okay, give me an example of a healthy tension. How do I fix my greedy sales director scenario?
Let's go back to your revenue example. Instead of just growth in revenue, you pair it with gross margin.
All right, so now if I drop the price to get the sale, my revenue goes up, but my margin goes down, and I miss my bonus.
Exactly. You can't cheat. You have to find a way to grow revenue without killing the margin.
Yeah.
That forces actual innovation. That forces actual value creation.
I think it closes the loophole.
Here are a few others. Client growth versus acquisition costs.
So I can't just spend $1 million on ads to get one single customer.
Delivery speed versus defect rate.
I can't just ship junk software fast.
Customer satisfaction versus
I
profitability.
can't just give everything away for free to make people happy.
And productivity versus team engagement.
I can't burn out my team to hit a totally arbitrary deadline.
This logic is rooted in the balanced scorecard approach by Kaplan and Norton. You need to balance financial, client, process, and human factors.
So how many of these should we have? Because earlier we established that too many goals is bad.
The ideal is 3 to 4 well-chosen KPIs that constrain each other. This is the Goldilocks zone. Too many KPIs and you have strategic fog. 1 KPI and you have dangerous drift. 3 to 4 and you have a functioning cockpit.
Okay, here's a question. I've seen companies where marketing have one set of KPIs, sales has another, and engineering has a completely different third set. Is that good tension?
That is dangerous tension. The research specifically critiques the practice of giving every department totally different KPIs.
Why is that?
Because it creates silos. If marketing is measured only on leads and sales is measured only on closing, marketing will send 1,000 junk leads just to hit their number.
And sales will scream that the leads are garbage.
And they end up hating each other. The recommendation is this. Departments need specific KPIs, obviously, but they must also have common KPIs to force collaboration. Marketing should care deeply about the closing rate. Sales should care deeply about the lead quality.
That makes total sense. It forces them to get in the exact same boat. This is getting a bit darker, though. We started with productivity hacks and project management, and now we're talking about corporate poisoning. But I want to go deeper into that corruption element you mentioned in the intro. You said the system incentivizes unethical behavior.
Yes. And this is the part of the deep dive that usually makes executives really squirm. Because we like to believe that ethics are just a character trait. You are either a good person or you are a crook.
Right. We fire the bad apples, we do an afternoon ethics seminar, sign a pledge, and move on.
But the data from the Harvard Business Review and the research by Schweitzer, Ordonez, and Bazerman suggest that is a very comforting fairy tale. They found that if you take perfectly honest, well-intentioned people and you place them in a poorly designed incentive structure, you can predictably turn them into liars.
Predictably. That's a really strong word.
It is. The research shows that when you combine difficult objectives with high financial pressure, you trigger specific mechanisms in the brain. You increase the probability of cheating. You encourage number manipulation. And you completely reduce attention to long-term consequences.
This reminds me of that saying, tell me how you measure me, and I will tell you how I will behave.
Precisely. But there is a specific mechanism that is particularly dangerous, the threshold effect, or what we call cliff bonuses.
Is that the reach 100% and get the bonus, reach 99% and get absolutely nothing scenario?
That's the one. The data shows that opportunistic behavior explodes just before the target, around 95 to 99%.
Because you're just so incredibly close.
Think about it. It's December 30th. You are at 98%. You have worked 80-hour weeks. You have missed your kids' soccer games. You have sacrificed everything for this company. You are this close to the money you need for your mortgage.
I can feel the stress just hearing you describe that.
Now you look at the data and you realize if you just slightly adjust the date on this one single contract, or if you ship this product today, even though you know the quality check isn't quite finished,
It's just a tiny tweak. It's practically a rounding error.
neuroscience tells us the brain switches to all or nothing mode. The pain of missing that bonus by 1% is so high that the brain rationalizes cheating. It views the missing bonus not as a missed gain, but as a theft. It feels like the company is actively stealing that money from you on a technicality.
So cheating becomes justice.
In that specific moment of high pressure, yes, the brain rationalizes it as correcting an unfairness. And that is exactly how you get Wells Fargo.
The fake account scandal.
Right. Their goal was products per customer. They wanted every customer to have 8 accounts. 8 is great was the actual rhyme they used internally.
Catchy, but deeply flawed.
The result was millions of fraudulent accounts. Now, were the thousands of employees at Wells Fargo actual psychopaths?
Probably not. They were just normal bank tellers making hourly wages.
They were normal people optimizing a poorly designed system. The pressure was intense, the goal was singular, and the incentive was binary. You either hit the number or you got fired.
So they created fake accounts just to survive. It stops being about greed and starts being about survival.
Volkswagen is another perfect example. The goal was environmental performance plus market share in the U.S. diesel market. Those two goals, under the technology constraints of the time, were physically impossible to achieve together at a low cost.
So they rigged the software.
They rigged the software. And Enron, well, the goal was aggressive financial growth. The result was systemic accounting manipulation.
This brings us to a really heavy realization for anyone leading a team.
Which is?
That we can't just point the finger and blame the bad apples.
No. The core maxim from our research is this. People don't become unethical because they are bad. They become unethical because the system makes opportunistic behavior rational.
That is a quote that should be on every CEO's wall. If the rational choice is to cheat, you have essentially designed a cheating machine.
And then you act surprised when it prints lies. If a CEO doesn't look at their bonus architecture lucidly, they are sitting on a ticking time bomb.
Okay, this is legitimately scary. But we promise practical tools at the top of the show. We aren't just here to admire the problem. How do we actually fix this? You mentioned a framework or a workshop.
Yes, there is a structured workshop methodology available to fix this. It's essentially behavioral engineering in action.
And just a quick note for you listeners. The detailed content and agenda for this workshop are available for download for anyone who wants to run it themselves. But full disclosure, if you need help, the creators of this methodology mentioned that they can help with facilitation and guidance, as this is their core competency.
It's really not easy to run this internally because it requires asking some very hard questions of your leadership team.
Let's walk through the modules so they get a sense of it. Module 1 is the autopsy of dispersion. I love that name. It sounds so forensic.
It starts with the truth exercise. You ask the executive team individually to write down the top 5 projects and the one vital project.
And let me guess, they all write down totally different things.
Almost always. The lists differ wildly, which proves a lack of alignment immediately. Then you create a map. You list the projects, the unique owners, and the real time spent.
Not the theoretical time they wish they spent.
No, the real time. If you have 7 strategic projects or leaders with 2 major projects each, you are diluting. The diagnosis is clear. The fix is radical. You select one vital project, maximum 2 secondary projects. Everything else is frozen or delegated.
Frozen. That's tough to just walk into a room and say, stop.
A priority is painful by definition. If you aren't hurting from the things you aren't doing, you aren't prioritizing.
Oof, that's a good one. Okay, moving on to Module 2, the KPI audit.
This includes my absolute favorite exercise, the corruption test.
Tell me about the corruption test. This sounds like something I'd really enjoy doing.
You take your current KPIs, and usually companies find they have 15 to 40 of them floating around.
Which is a nightmare in itself.
It really is. And for every KPI, you ask the room, how could I improve this number while destroying the company?
Oh, that's fun. It's like a red team exercise. You get to act like the villain.
Exactly. So for improve Net Promoter Score, or NPS, how do you destroy the company?
Easy. I only send the survey to the clients I already know are happy. I suppress all the unhappy ones.
Once metric goes up, you lose touch with reality. Company dies a slow death because you don't see the churn coming. What about improve cash?
I stop paying my vendors completely. I stop all innovation investment. I sell off the office furniture.
Cash goes up today, company dies tomorrow.
So if you can find a way to manipulate it that easily.
Then a counterweight KPI is missing. You need to identify that healthy architecture. Maximum 4 KPIs. Usually something like 1 for growth, 1 for profitability, 1 for financial health, and 1 for quality or human capital.
Simple. Balanced. Tense.
Correct.
And finally, Module 3, the integrity audit. This is about the money.
This is where you check the bonus structure. You look for those brutal thresholds we talked about earlier. Are there cliffs? Is it all or nothing? Is the potential gain wildly disproportionate?
And is the delay between the action and the negative consequence way too long?
That's a vital one. If I get a massive bonus today for signing a bad contract that blows up in 2 years, I'm taking the bonus. I'll be gone working at another company by the time it blows up.
So what's the golden rule here?
Avoid cliffs. Favor progressive formulas. And always, always include a quality or long-term metric in the bonus formula. Make sure the pain of a bad decision is actually felt by the person making it.
It sounds so logical when you lay it out like that, but it requires real behavioral engineering to actually implement it, not just a memo.
It does. It requires you to stop trusting good intentions and start trusting good architecture.
So let's bring it all home. We've covered a massive amount of ground today. What are the key takeaways for someone listening to this deep dive right now?
It really comes down to 3 pillars of behavioral engineering.
Pillar 1.
Projects. Focus demands monotasking. Less goals equals more impact. One person, one critical project. Stop the glucose burn.
Pillar 2.
KPIs. Safety demands tension. You cannot have a single focus here. You need several contradictory indicators to create a sustainable balance. The bridge needs tension to stand.
And Pillar 3.
Ethics. It is not about morality. It is about incentive architecture. What you measure alone gets manipulated. If you design a system that rewards shortcuts, do not be surprised when people take them.
It's a really powerful framework. It totally flips the script. Be simple with projects, be complex, or at least balanced with metrics.
And look at your incentives with a cold, hard stare.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. We talked about priority being painful.
Yes, there is a provocative thought here. If you are a leader and you feel comfortable with your list of goals, you probably have way too many. Comfort comes from the illusion that you can do it all. Leadership is the profound discomfort of saying no to good ideas so you can execute the great idea.
That's something to chew on. If you aren't hurting, you aren't prioritizing.
Exactly.
Well, that wraps up this deep dive. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Under the Hood, a blend of business and socio-psychology. And remember, understanding is useful, execution is mandatory.